Hey guys, it's Nick, and it's preview time for your 2022-2023 Chicago Blackhawks. Oh, we are in a rough time for being Blackhawk fans. This is probably going to be one of the worst teams in Blackhawks history going into this season, as the Hawks are clearly going hard for Bedard, meaning how Connor Bedard is the #1 prospect in this year 2023 NHL draft. He's been projected that for now a couple of years now, and with what's going on, the Hawks are going to be in dire strength to go hard and try and get the first overall draft pick. After making so many trades this offseason, losing Alex DeBrincat, losing Kirby Dach, losing Dylan Strome, the Hawks have made a lot of change. And, well, we are in the dark days. We are in the dark days of Chicago Blackhawk hockey, as the preseason has finally just ended for your Chicago Blackhawks. They went 1 for 5 in the preseason, getting outscored 22-6 in the preseason. It was a rough preseason. If that was any foreshadowing for the season, it pretty much was, because at most parts there was games the Hawks were playing their main players out on preseason play, and well, none of them really showed up to play in any of the games. Kane, Taves, Jones really all never showed up to play at all. And then new acquired goaltending in Alex Stalock and Peter Mrazek. There were 2 shining games for each of them, and 2 shining terrible games for each of them. So this team is going to be rough to watch. There's going to be players on this roster you may not have ever heard of, and well, we are going to be competing for that first overall selection in the 2023 NHL draft. This team, we know, was not supposed to be good. We have to get that vision in mind. They already sent down Lucas Reichel, #1 prospect in the organization, to the Rockford Ice Hogs. Reason behind it? Send him to play on a competitive team in Rockford versus playing on a team in Chicago that is going to look horrendous and maybe stunt a development of a young, flourishing top prospect. You want to put them in a position to succeed in development versus a position to fail. And that's what the Hawks are doing by putting Rockford where they're sending all their main prospects that are eligible to play in the AHL down there to get them to develop into flourishing young star players. Kevin Kortinski, young defenseman who we drafted 7th overall in the 2022 draft, he looks outstanding in the preseason. Then they sent him back to the Seattle Thunderbirds in the WHL, where since he's not eligible to play in the AHL, it's smart to send him to the W to get more development and be one of the best players in that league. This team, we know it. We're in for a rough season, so let's get into the season standings predictions for the Central Division, shall we? Alright, as you can see right there, here are my standing predictions for the 2022-23 Central Division in the NHL. Yes, as you can see, I have St. Louis ranked at 1st place in the Central Division, Nashville at 2nd, the Colorado Avalanche, the defending champion Avalanche, 3rd place, the Dallas Stars ranked 4th, the Minnesota Wild ranked 5th, the Winnipeg Jets at 6th, and the Arizona Coyotes ranked just above the Hawks at 7th place. Hawks ranked 8th in the Central, and I think they're going to be ranked dead last out of 32 teams in the NHL, where the Coyotes probably finished 31st. You have the two worst teams in the NHL in the same division battling it off for Connor Bedard to have the highest chances for the first overall selection in this year's NHL draft. It's going to be a rough season for us, as you know, especially if St. Louis does end up at first place in the Central Division. The reason why I put St. Louis in first, frankly, they're coming back with pretty much the same team they had last season, minus Ville Husso, who basically stole the net from Jordan Binnington last year. But they pretty much stand-packed, and they honestly didn't get better, they didn't get worse, but I don't think they make it to a cup final, frankly. My pick for a cup final prediction, I will give it right now. Calgary Flames make it to the cup final out of the West. And then at Nashville, the moves they made, frankly, makes them a hell of a lot more competitive team than they were last season, even though they were still fairly competitive. I'm saying this right now. I think 3 teams come out of the Central Division to make the playoffs. 5 teams from the Pacific Division. And the third place team, the defending champion Avalanche. Why do I have the Avalanche here? They lost a ton of pieces to their roster that won them the Stanley Cup. Darcy Kemper's now with the Washington Capitals. Nazem Kadri's with the Calgary Flames. Some key pieces. And the fact that sometimes after winning a Stanley Cup, you come in kind of more in a difficult position to win. So the Avalanche at third kind of makes sense in my opinion. I think they're still going to be a very competitive team, trying to compete to go back-to-back this year. But it's going to be a tough season for them, in my opinion, even though they're still going to be a playoff team. 4th place, they could make the playoffs, they could not. I really think it's the Dallas Stars, because the Stars, I feel like, got a little bit better than last year. They did get to re-sign Jason Robertson. They got to re-sign Jake Ottinger. Those were the key players they needed to sign to contracts. Their team didn't lose all too much from their roster last year. So I think they're okay in a position at 4th place, middle of the pack in the Central Division. Then the Minnesota Wild. The reason why I put them at 5th is the reason here. This team has lost a lot of key contributors from their past teams. Granlund's now with the... My bad, not Granlund. Granlund's still with Nashville. He did used to play for the Wild. But Kevin Fiala now with the LA Kings. That's a big loss to their roster. A good scoring player that they are going to, frankly, have a harder time with. They also traded off Cam Talbot, who, frankly, was their starting goalie until Marc-Andre Fleury got traded by the Hawks to the Wild, and now Fleury signed a 2-year extension, and Talbot's now with the Ottawa Senators. So this Wild team, I feel like, is going to have a lot of issues on the season just because they have a big issue with the salary cap, and it's going to be a tough season, in my opinion, for them to get back to top 3 in the division. Then the Winnipeg Jets, they didn't do a lot to improve. They didn't do a lot to get worse. They're basically in that mushy middle where you don't know what you get with this Winnipeg team. You could get a Vezina caliber goaltender again and Connor Hellebuck, which the Jets will hope will happen. You could get Mark Scheifele with a chip on his shoulder. There's so much with this Jets team, but they just don't have what it takes, I feel like, especially hiring Rick Bowness as their head coach. Arizona and Chicago. Battle of the two worst teams in the NHL, in my opinion. Hawks at 32nd, Coyotes at 31st in the NHL. This is going to be a battle between who tanks the hardest, who's going to have the worst record, worst play in the season. It's going to be a rough go when you see these two teams play each other in Chicago and in Arizona. The Coyotes playing in ASU's new arena, the Mullet Arena, which is a weird name. Kind of works for hockey, though. And the Hawks playing in a United Center that's probably not going to be filled like it used to be. This is going to be a tough season to watch for Hawks fans, including myself. It's going to be a rough season for us. But I frankly think if the Hawks are in a position where they can land a top 3 pick, maybe top 1 pick, they're going to go after it. Because right now, the Hawks need to build that development program and get some more prospects in the system. And if they could get the best prospect hockey has seen since Connor McDavid, it could be a very impressive feat if they can manage to land Connor Bedard. So that's the standing predictions for this year's team. A topic that I want to mention going into this season preview, I'm going to also be talking about Rockford IceHog hockey, keeping an eye on our prospects down in Rockford, because I'm going to do a weekly video about the IceHogs going into this season, because this is going to be a good season for the IceHogs, I think. Keeping an eye on our prospects, developing their games down there is actually a smart move, and I think what I'm going to do is give us a idea on where they're sitting going further in this season's development, just because this season for the Hawks is going to be a rough season. We need some bright side out of it. So why not look at maybe a potential Calder Trophy, Calder Cup contender this year in the Rockford IceHogs going into the season with Arvid Soderblom at number 1 netminder, Lucas Reichel, the Blackhawks number 1 prospect. There's a lot down in Rockford to see that could maybe help this Blackhawks team in the future. So I want to give you guys that heads up that we will have some content about the prospects down in Rockford. Maybe every week, maybe every other week. I'm still trying to decide that, but I did want to give you that in this season preview because it's an important thing to talk about. The Hawks prospects are going to get a lot more presence and ideas and what we need to talk about going in this channel with bringing in a bright side, because we know this season's going to be a rough one for Blackhawks hockey. So IceHog hockey should be a fun season to keep an eye on. So let's get into my bold predictions for the final segment of this video. Alright, here's a fun thing I want to do. A bold prediction for your Chicago Blackhawks this year. And it involves the power play. Last year, we know the Hawks had 0 power play goals in the 2021-22 season from defensemen on the blue line. So, how about this? My first bold prediction for your 2022-23 Chicago Blackhawks season, it's going to involve the power play and the blue line. And the first goal of the 2022-23 season will be a power play goal from the point shot by number 4, Seth Jones. Yes, I'm predicting the first power play goal And first goal of this season will be a power play goal by Jones on the point. Is it bold to say it? Yes. I don't think it happens, but I have that weird suspicion since we had the one power play that had 0 power play goals from the defenseman last year. I think the Hawks might actually have their first goal of the season be a power play goal from Steph Jones, just because he's going to be quarterbacking the power play. Another bold prediction, because we see this topic come up quite a bit this offseason, Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane. Will they get traded? I'm going to say with Jonathan Toews, we could see him get traded. Is it a bold prediction? Not so much. But with Patrick Kane, the bold prediction is I think Patrick Kane signs an extension with the Hawks to stay with this team. Or with the other fact, if Toews does leave or he does decide to retire, that could happen. These are just bold predictions. They honestly could not happen. If this all happens, it will be cool to see. Kane gets to return as a Hawk. Toews may retire, may not. If he wants to continue his play and play somewhere else, he could do that. But frankly, I think Patrick Kane wants to stay with the Hawks. Even though this team's going to be terrible for a few years, he could want to stay with the team and try and finish his legacy of being the greatest Blackhawk player of all time. He already is, in my opinion. He's already surpassed Stan Mikita as the greatest Blackhawk of all time. With his 3 Stanley Cups, his playoff MVP, his regular season MVP, his Rookie of the Year, his Ted Lindsay, his scoring title. I think Kane already probably surpassed Stan Mikita as the greatest Hawk of all time, but that is still argued around Blackhawk fans, so that's something I need to mention. But this is just for fun, because we have a rough season ahead of us. We need some bold predictions, right? So that's why I gave you my few bold predictions. Jones becoming the first power play goal of the year, even being the first goal of the year. Maybe he does it on Wednesday against the Colorado Avalanche on their banner raising ceremony. It could happen. But this is an interesting team. Hawks are going to be terrible. Hawks are going to be running for Connor Bedard, and it's clear they are ready to tank. Goaltending is going to be pretty bad. Offense is going to be really bad. Defense, I think it is a little bit in a better position than it was last year, but it's still not going to be the greatest. But at least we are going to have some prospects coming through. So down in the comments down below, I want to hear what your bold predictions are for the 22-23 season and where you predict the Hawks to be sitting in the standings for this year's season. So thank you for watching the broadcast. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And most of all, this is going to be a long season, but let's go Hawks!